Good morning, good Thursday morning, and I hope your week has gone well so far. Uh, I know it hasn't gone well in certain parts of the country, and so our thoughts and our good magic are being projected in areas that need it the most, I guess. Uh, I'm going to share something I've shared with you before, but maybe not quite in this context. Uh, I, I'm a shameless self promoter. Okay, I, uh, I always have been, and why not? Okay, it's fun, and uh, and I do a lot of stuff, and I do create a lot of stuff, and a lot of that stuff might not have seen the light of day, or at least uh, a broad audience or broader audience if I haven't just been so freaking audacious with my letting myself hang out there. I used to have a big pad, a lecture pad of paper uh, that I put behind me, and on the second or third page of it, and I'd turn the pages as I lectured. This was before I had PowerPoint presentations. I had to sort of make my own flip cartoons on a big sheet of pad of paper held up on an easel. And about the second or third page back, I put, please buy my books. I've made no further provisions for my family's future. And just as I was talking about whatever the subject I was talking about, I just casually go back there and flip that page and then just go on with my talk and let everybody see it. But that stuck with them. And years later, okay, 20, 30 years later, I still get people saying, I'll never forget that lecture you did in Chicago or Philadelphia or wherever it was, uh, where you said, please buy my books. I've made no further provisions for my family's future. So I guess the magic of that worked. So, uh, but anyway, I am happy to do when people invite me to go on their blogcast or their radio show or even their television shows. I've been on like video interviews and things, and uh, but invariably, especially when I'm being introduced to a broader audience that just sort of not specialized audience in Kabbalah or tarot or magic or anything. And I'm always asked the same thing. How did you get interested in all of this stuff? And it's really a hard. Uh, it's hard for me to actually answer that because, in a sense, I can't remember a time when I have kind of not always sort of been into this kind of stuff. And it goes way back to, it's not because I don't remember my childhood, because I remember tons of shit from my childhood, early childhood, infancy, as a matter of fact. And I've had the unique opportunity while my brain was still formulating, while my infant, almost fresh, new into objective dimension universe brain, before it got bombarded with the illusions of objective reality, I remember my thoughts. And I try to say, well, and I try to explain this whole thing about I was, uh, forced back into immobility, and I wrote about it in my book, My Life with the Spirits, in a very short little chapter. But usually at those interviews, I can't read them that chapter, so I try to paraphrase paraphrase it as best I can. And uh, is that the proper way to say that? As best I can? Who knows? I ask a writer. But anyway, I'm going to share with you when I had the time to actually put that explanation in order to explain it. Lon, why are you so weird? What got you into this? Why? Were you always this weird? The book is My Life with the Spirits. The chapter is chapter 1, I Am Born. Except for the frustration and embarrassment of incontinence, infancy was a perfectly delightful experience. Soon after I learned to walk, it was discovered that I was afflicted with Perthes disease. In my right hip, Perthes is a serious bone malady that crumbles the topmost part of the thigh. In order to prevent complete disintegration of my hip sockets, the doctors ordered me off my feet and back into the crib. That was fine with me. It meant I could comfortably lounge undisturbed for many hours each day, blissfully drifting in and out of consciousness. So I was awake for 20 minutes, asleep for 20 minutes, awake for 24 hours a day. Unlike able-bodied children who, soon as they begin to walk and talk, lose the precious memories of their pre-linguistic inner life. In other words, this is happening to all of us at that stage. My little brain was allowed to crystallize and permanently register those thoughts and images. As long as I was quiet, my mother was satisfied to leave me to my semi-conscious musings. And I can replay them in my head right now. Among these were visions of myself as an adult man crouching in a dirt trench with half a dozen other men. I've read this to you before. Like World War I memories, okay? But there was one that also triggered other things in me. And I was driving south on the Pacific Coast Highway, and I knew I was going to meet a woman, an adult woman. I was an adult, and I was going to meet an adult woman. And I knew where I was going. It was Ensenada, Mexico. And I'd never been to Ensenada. Okay, there was no television or radio where all of this was happening in 1950, 51, okay? So all of these memories were coming out of my head, okay? I guess the point I'm making is you, at that stage, had you been allowed quiet time, pleasant, sedentary time alone with yourself, with no reason to either be frightened, afraid. The dark was nothing to me. I was not afraid of the dark. When I moved to Nebraska, the basement freaked me out, but that wasn't because I was afraid of the dark. No, I like the dark. I just spent 9 months bobbing around in the dark. It was cool. But I had one frustration at that time. And in a sense, if we would all stop to think about it, we still all have that frustration. Well, I thought of something else that I'll bring up in a second if I can remember it. Okay, without a doubt, the most profound of these crib meditations was an exercise I practiced daily, whereby I pondered the nature of my own existence. When you think about it, what a gift that was for any kid to be allowed the environment and the opportunity to ponder the nature of your own existence. And without being encumbered with a huge vocabulary of words and the linking up of ineffable thoughts with with verbs and nouns and pronouns and words to artificially encapsulate these wordless ideas. Without the benefit of words to frame the question, I somehow ask myself, was I off before I was on? And by on, I meant being awake enough to ask the question. Was I off? Where was I? Where was I before, and where'd those other thoughts come from? The drive to Ensenada, the being pelted on the head with dirt clods and stones after a huge explosion. Where did that? Was I on there? If I weren't who I am, who would I be? I then tried to imagine myself not on, and it never succeeded. Each time I imagined myself switched off, I instantly found myself switched on in another consciousness center. My brother, my mother, my father, or someone else. This frustrated me no end because if there was one thing I did know, it was that I was I and nobody else. Nevertheless, I played this game every day in hopes that I would someday break out of this sort of, it was like a helical loop. And I finally gave up. Now, when you wake up from a dream, okay, I don't know if this happens to everybody, but I make a note of it when it happens to me. I dream quite a bit, okay, and because I am conscious of when I come out of a dream and start to wake up to roll over in the bed or to get up to pee or something. I'm consciously aware of when I've just moved out of the dream state and into the waking state. Now, no matter what the dream is, the dream can be pleasant, neutral, stupid, interesting, profound, curious, I'm perfectly fine with the me that is in the dream world. If it becomes if a dream becomes unconscious, if I don't like the plot of the dream or something else, I figure out a way to deal with my situation. Okay, and if not, I kind of like the experience you have in the house of the fun house, the house of horror or something at a carnival or something. Along for the ride there. Okay, it's the transition point that I find disturbing. Because when I come out of a dream, let's say I'm coming out of a just a general frustrating dream of some kind. When I come out of the dream and into the waking stage, when I'm aware of the me that's in this dimension, it kind of freaks me out. And then I try to remember what the dream was. I said, well, I felt okay with that, but I don't feel okay with it from the waking stage, from the waking side of the door. Does that make any sense? Does this happen to you? It's that transition point from that pretty profoundly different level of consciousness of the dream state, the REM state, if you want to call it that, and the waking consciousness. I'm happy with the me on that side, and I'm happy with the me on this side. But when I think about that transition point, that makes me uncomfortable. Like, did I lose something? Am I stuck somewhere? It's almost a claustrophobic panic in a small dose. Okay. And I began to think about the circumstances of the adventure of the Egyptian Book of the Dead, where the deceased is moving from one level to another in the post-mortem experience. And the idea is, no, you want to hang on to the idea of the me that is me, no matter what dimension you're in. You want to be confident in the meanness of you, not the meanness, but the me-ness of you. And so there's a little procedure. You're met at each stage by the terror of the threshold. And when they say terror, I think they're referring to that moment of panic, that claustrophobic panic. Like, gee, I'm not sure the meanness of my present state is going to make it through the meanness of where I am headed. So there's a guardian at the threshold. Crocodile with bad breath or something like that. And but you're prepared for it because you've trained yourself to know that this terror of the threshold is going to be there. But if you correctly identify it, just like in the fable of Adam in the Garden of Eden, where God takes Adam around and has Adam name everything. He named the plant. Oh, that's a daisy. Oh, that's a, and all the animals. Oh, that's a crocodile. Oh, that's a, okay. And in a way, excuse me, in a way, the act of naming it is separating you from it. It's not a good thing, really, ultimately. Excuse me, because it separates you. But in this place, you name the terror. Ah, Frank the Crocodile's your name. Let me through. And Frank the Terror of the Threshold goes, God, how did he know my name was Frank? Go on, go on. Yeah, I'll work that out. It's the terror of the threshold as you move from one level of consciousness to another. And it's not a bad sign. It's not something, oh, I'm so afraid of it, I got to overcome. No, it's a good sign. Same thing with every step in your initiatory process in regular life, in me life. Every growth spurt, every initiation, you're met by a terror of the threshold. And you don't slug your way through it. You identify it and pass through. Every initiation experience that's worth its salt has a moment where you're moving about the temple or being led around the temple, and you're moving around. Yeah, I'm in the temple. And you're stopped. You're stopped. And somebody gets in your face and says something to you or asks you something. And it's mostly on the level of, who the fuck are you? And you have to think for a minute. Who am I? What was I before this? Have I always been on? Have I always been on this trip? Now, in formal group initiations, you've got the equivalent of a holy guardian angel that's been leading you around, the hegemon or or the you got a bad cop and a good cop. And the good cop is taking you around, and the bad cop is the one that's getting in your face. And you have to say something. You have to satisfy him. And if you don't have the presence of mind to come up with a good answer, your guardian angel character whispers in your ear, "Hey, you're a fella. You're a traveler. Okay, you're like all of you. You're a traveler." I am a traveler, or whatever that is. I didn't give anything away. Um, that's the terror of the threshold. And just like as you pass from one stage of consciousness to another in your nightly adventures of dream consciousness, it should set you up for your day-to-day experiences, because evolution is evolution in your physical body, evolution in your spiritual body. Evolution is a constant process of being born, moving forward, opposed, and you overcoming the opposition. That overcoming of the opposition mutates you. It's an adventure that adds more texture to your life. Indiana Jones is a different, more interesting, more colorful, wiser character at the end of the movie than he is at the beginning of the movie. That's because he had to go through all the snakes and the skeletons. Anyway, that's my little talk, and you can see it's sort of hard for me to answer the seemingly very simple question. Well, what got you into all this? When did you start to think mystically? Well, it was my piano teacher that made me. No, oh, no, it was in the freaking crib. Okay, until tomorrow, continue to be good to yourself and be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will.